We now travel from 12th century central Persia to its northwestern reaches in the city of Nishapur. Back in episode 1, we met a prominent Sufi poet named Abu Sa'id Abul Khair, who lived in this ancient city located on the Silk Road and known for its pottery, carpets, and turquoise. On this episode, we meet another Sufi master and poet who called Nishapur their home and who greatly influenced countless Sufi poets after him. Born as Abu Hamid bin Abu Bakr Ibrahim, Attar was not just a Persian poet and Sufi, but also a hagiographer, or someone who writes literary narratives about holy people and saints. Similar to many other poets during this era, not much is known about Attar, and much of his life has been reduced to myths and legends. What we do know, however, is that he was the son of a prosperous pharmacist and received a strong education in medicine, Arabic, and theosophy. He worked at his father's pharmacy, helping prepare essential oils and herbal remedies. And when his father passed away, he took over his shop, often writing poetry while attending to his clients. In fact, his pen name Attar means apothecary, pharmacist, or perfumer in Farsi. It is through his profession that he came into regular contact with people from all walks of life with their daily struggles, which is believed to have affected him deeply. One narrative tells of a fakir, or Muslim ascetic, visiting Attar's shop one day and marveling at the opulence of his store. The fakir's astonishment made Attar uncomfortable, and he ordered the beggar to leave immediately. The fakir, indignant, then pointed at his ragged cloak and said, "I have no problem leaving with just this, but how are you planning to leave with all this?" he said, pointing at the store. This experience moved Attar immensely, and he eventually left his pharmacy and traveled across the Asian continent, meeting with many Sufi scholars who influenced him greatly before returning back home. When he returned, he reopened his pharmacy and began contributing to Sufi thought, starting with a prose work called Tadkirat al-Awliya, or the Memorial of the Saints. In which he compiled verses, sayings, and biographical accounts from previous Sufi poets and mystics, like Rabia and Mansur al-Hallaj. Many of these saints would have simply been forgotten in history had it not been for Attar's work. When I hear his story, I'm reminded of a young Siddhartha who centuries before was also exposed to the suffering of the people around him, before leaving the comfy palace life to become an ascetic and eventually return years later enlightened as the Buddha. Attar wrote both short lyric poems as well as longer epic poems, which contained highly symbolic stories conveying themes of enlightenment, oneness, union, separation, and divine love. His most famous work is Was-Attar, or The Conference of the Birds, which is an epic spiritual poem containing thousands of verses that narrate the story of birds personifying humans who, with the guidance of the hoopoe bird or their spiritual master, go on a quest in search of the legendary Simurgh bird, or God. They travel through 7 valleys, or stages in their spiritual journey, overcoming many personal obstacles along the way. Of the 200 birds that start the journey, only 30 end up successfully annihilating their ego to reach the home of the Simurgh. But when they arrive, they learn that the Simurgh is unfortunately not there, and that they, in fact, are the Simurgh themselves. Attar cleverly used wordplay to employ a double meaning, with the word si meaning 30 and murgh meaning bird in Farsi. All of which ultimately demonstrate the divine within each and every one of us. Many of Attar's teachings can be simplified to express that the soul, waiting for release from its bodily prison and reunion with Source in the afterlife, can actually experience this reunion in this present life through journeying inward and purifying their heart. He is said to have died a violent but memorable death, with the legend stating that when the Mongols invaded Nishapur in 1221, Attar was taken prisoner by a Mongol. When someone tried to ransom him with 1,000 pieces of silver, Attar advised the Mongol not to sell him at that price. The Mongol got excited, thinking he could earn even more money. Later, another person came offering just a sack of straw in exchange for Attar. The mystic told the Mongol to sell him for that price, for that it was all he was worth. Angered by this, the Mongol then beheaded Attar. The story itself is hard to verify, but it illustrates an important point. The body and individual self, or ego, is of little worth. What should be prized, and is priceless, is the divinity inside us, which can never be killed or destroyed. Though not relatively famous in his own time, Attar's popularity grew over the centuries, and he is said to have made an indelible impression on a young Rumi. Some sources say that the young boy, born when Attar was well in his 60s, actually met the elder mystic on his way to Konya, Turkey, with his family. Perhaps seeing the spiritual potential in him during this exchange, Attar gave Rumi one of his famous books, the Asrar-Nama, or Book of Secrets, which is said to have significantly shaped Rumi's own life philosophy and poetry.